Are you tired of all the dating games, rules, and societal norms that make falling in love confusing and stressful?
Then join us as we ditch the script and empower you to establish healthy, conscious relationships.
This weekly podcast breaks down popular dating reality television and educates you on healthy versus toxic dating habits.
I'm Brianna, a licensed therapist.
And I'm Alex, a trauma-informed and certified narcissist recovery coach.
Are you ready to ditch the script?
Oh my God.
I love it.
Wow, we just had a whole conversation.
We absolutely had a whole conversation in silence.
Yeah.
We are getting better at this. That's
We're
what I
so
know.
good. Yeah. But you're right. Grapefruit juice and coffee do not mix. And so
No.
you must do coffee first, then grapefruit juice, because otherwise that citric acid be fucking up your taste buds.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like how to make your taste buds go blind in under 10 seconds.
Man.
Are you doing a bit of like, you're not really hungover, but this is kind of like my hangover cure, what you're doing
really?
right now. Yeah.
This is my boyfriend doesn't have anything in his fridge in LA, and so I'm just giving myself whatever caloric intake I can take.
Perfect.
Yeah. While I wait for him to get back from golfing and we can eat.
Okay, great. Yeah, well, this is like, hopefully this happens for me when I'm like at a diner, but if I'm really hungover and I'm like with people, I will like, I need a water, I need an orange juice, I need a coffee. And it's like the trifecta of these liquids that send my body back into a more neutral state.
This tracks though. I can understand that.
Yeah. And then you just have to like manage what is physically coming up. Like, could it be throw up? Could it be like
Acid
a
reflux.
diary?
Yeah.
I was gonna say a diarrhea situation. Like, are we gonna
Could
shit our
also be that
pants in
bubble
public?
guts.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of just like it's a mixture of managing all of these things. That's
Yeah.
the hard part.
I also had this is really gross, but when we were driving out to LA yesterday, we went to Taco Bell and then
Yes.
we got a bag of Twists, which he doesn't like, but I do.
Yeah.
And they might be stale because they're a day old, but totally dunked them in my coffee for today's breakfast.
That's what you were doing.
Yeah.
I was wondering what were in there.
I love how you just love me no matter what weird.
No
thing
matter
happens.
what.
Thank you.
No matter
Yeah.
what. I accept you as you are.
But yeah, like I said, my body, I had 1 cup of coffee this morning, and like when I went to walk Jack's, I had bubble guts. My body was like, yo, you need something in here other than this. And so I came back up and I was like, okay, carbs. I have access to this, like carbs and sugar. Sure. You know, we're just trying to give it whatever it can right now.
And
You know,
our
beggars can't be
bodies,
choosers.
yeah, our bodies are saying, thank you for not giving me nothing.
Yeah. Anything is better than nothing.
Anything.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
we just
he's
have
got
to.
lots of fluids, and I had the like pomegranate juice, orange juice options, ginger ale. There was some other soda up in there, grapefruit juice, water, 2 different kinds of coffees. So I was just like, okay, great. Like we're gonna have some fluids, and I got these Twists over here, and
thank God for them. Thank
Yeah.
God for them.
Yeah. So
Oh my
we're
God.
good.
That's so funny. You're just like, my boyfriend is rich in fluids, rich
Yes.
in beverages.
Yeah, I can't blame him. He doesn't spend a ton of time out here right now, so like I totally understand why. It's just the funniest thing because I'm like, we're gonna make do. We're gonna make do. And if he comes in and is like, why are all my glasses in the sink? I have a very valid reason.
It's because I'm eating with imagination. That's what's happening.
So
Amazing.
I'm gonna partake in this. How are you? What's going on in your world?
I'm still navigating like a COVID positive life, but that's okay. And in some ways, I've kind of said like, fuck it. First of all, I've been positive since last like 2 Fridays ago. So at this point, I'm like, I'm going to the beach. Catch me at the beach. I got to get out of my house. Catch me fucking outside. So I went to the beach this morning at like 8 o'clock, and it was so beautiful. There were there were
Nice.
like there were like big clouds kind of blocking the sun, which was really beautiful. So it was like a really enjoyable experience to be on the beach because it wasn't already so sunny and so like
Word.
immediately hot. It was
Yeah.
gorgeous and the clouds were gorgeous, and I was just watching Tucker live his best life and I was living my best life. And I don't
Yeah.
always do this, but I did like bring a towel and just like was in a bathing suit because maybe I was going to swim, maybe I wasn't. I was leaving that up to
The
the,
universe
the
and its
universe and the
direction.
moment.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so being there, I was just like taking it in and I was like, this is so beautiful. I feel so comfortable. This is so nice. And
Vitamin D,
yeah, I took my time. It
sleep.
was beautiful.
Love it.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So
That's
I'm doing
awesome.
good. Yeah.
Good. I
Hmm.
love that for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
We're having a hurricane out here.
I
You
heard
heard
about
about
that. Yeah.
it?
You're
Yeah.
supposed to, hopefully, it sounds like the hurricane's not going to be so strong that like winds are too bad, but it does sound like you're going to get a lot of rain, which can be dangerous.
In Palm Springs more so than LA. Palm
Oh,
Springs, it's supposed to be like 10 inches of rain. In LA, it's supposed to be some like a lot less than that. But the thing about Palm Springs is that we're surrounded by mountains, so we get all the drop off from that.
yeah.
And Palm Springs floods real easily, even if it's like an inch of rain. And so I have neighbors texting me this morning being like, "Did you get sandbags?" And it's like, I'm in LA. I put my, floaties inside and my rake is laying on the ground instead of being upright so that it doesn't become a projectile. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Does it flood?" And he's like, "It can." And I'm like, "Well, we'll see. I have renter's insurance."
That's good. Yeah. Do you think that it, in some ways it's good that you're not there right now, or do you sort of wish you were there to hold down the fort?
Oh, no, I'm happy to not be there.
Cool.
Yeah, like, I'm crossing my fingers we don't lose power because I have a lot of food in my freezer. And I'm obviously crossing my fingers that it doesn't flood into my apartment.
Yep.
But, if there's one thing I learned from glowing up in Florida, we'll just leave that.
Yep.
Um, it's, hurricanes, you just literally have to go with the flow. Like,
Yeah.
there's only so much you can prepare. I did what I felt was good enough for the
Yeah.
area.
Hmm.
The forecast now is looking like it's more going to be a tropical storm by the time
Which would be
because it's
great.
right. So it's like it'll still be a good amount of rain.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to stress. Like, there's no point. I'm just going to enjoy my time out here
Good.
in the city of angels and go back to the desert maybe Monday, Tuesday. I did bring extra dog food and clothes just in case we end up staying out here longer because it's too
Yeah.
much of a challenge to get back.
Yeah.
So we prepared in that way. The
Okay,
end.
I love that. Listen, once a Florida girl, always a Florida girl. And
Yeah.
she takes her Florida lessons.
Yeah. Like my neighbors were like, "Oh yeah, you're from Florida." And it's like, "Yeah, like, feeder bands." Like that's always the running joke, for
Yeah.
Floridians. Like, "Oh no,
Mhm.
feeder bands."
Mhm.
But yeah, it's been nice to impart my wisdom on the locals and my
Mhm.
boyfriend.
Yeah, right.
That's about it.
Nah, that's it.
Yeah.
They
But
don't
I'm
know
so
too many.
excited for rain. I
Yeah.
love a good thunderstorm, and so
Mhm.
I'm excited to at least experience one of those at some point over this weekend.
Safe
Yeah.
thunderstorms, safe
Yeah. Maybe
rain.
by candlelight, you
Sometimes
know.
I send Alex voice notes while I'm
Yes.
safely in the car, but because it's like I'll be like parked somewhere and it's raining, and I'm like sending her a voice note, and she can like hear all of the rain that
Mhm.
is like crashing in, and I'm always like apologizing because I'm like, I'm sorry that I'm screaming, and you're like, it's so great, it's so
Yeah.
nice, like my inner world is so
Yeah.
calm.
Yeah. It's so weird because it's like one, yes, I grew up listening to rain quite a bit being in Florida, but two, I'm a Pisces, and so it's like
Mm,
the sound of running like natural water, rain, rivers, oceans, it's like home in my
mm,
heart.
mm. It's so beautiful. So now that we've totally crushed on rain and water
Yeah.
and hurricane safety,
Yes. Preparedness.
let's talk about the ways in which we
Love is
also
blind.
crush on Love is Blind.
All right, let's
Yeah.
do it to it.
Okay, so this is Love is Blind Japan, as we know and love. And this is episodes 9 and 10. There are only 11 episodes total. So we are covering today the episodes before we get to the weddings. And the last episode is a wedding. And what I'm sad about is like there's no reunion.
Yeah.
I hate that.
I wish we could see what was going on.
I
Hey,
know.
you gotta get down here.
Oh, but he's in the background and I love him. It's Jax,
I know,
everyone.
I
Hi,
love him
Jax.
too.
Is it
But
okay? Oh,
he,
can he not be on the couch?
we're
Oh,
trying to train him to not
oh.
be ruling the roost. Come here, Bubba. Okay, I'm gonna mute myself and take care of this. You
Okay,
do
and I'm
Laura.
just gonna talk about how much I love Love is Blind Japan. You guys, listen, like, would I be lying if I didn't say that I did fall asleep at like a quarter of these episodes? Yes, I would. But it's not the show. I mean, the show is incredibly calming, but it is. But I'm also just a sleepy television girl. Like, I can't watch a movie without falling asleep. I can't watch television till 9 p.m. without falling asleep. It's just who I am. It's just what I do. But the show is beautiful. You know what I really appreciate about this show compared to
Tell
US?
me.
Two things. One, they don't avoid talking about the fact that they are on a television show. I think that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whereas like like Love is Blind US, they're like the experiment, the ultimatum, the experiment, this experiment. It's not a fucking experiment, and honestly, it's so unethical to even consider this an experiment because this is an unethical setting. If we've learned anything from Xander's interview, this is an unethical setting.
It's all unethical. It's all bullshit. It's all highly manipulative.
Yeah, so like for one, honestly, this shouldn't even be happening. We shouldn't have structures and systems like these for our entertainment and dollar signs.
I
Like,
know, it's like the Hunger Games, but real.
yeah, I don't like it. Without like the direct cause of death, it's like everything else.
Yeah, the emotional turmoil.
It's bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so we should be calling it an experiment, and experiments like no, that's just unethical and misleading and wrong. So I like that they call it a television show. I like that they name that. The other thing that I love about Love is Blind Japan is that like these couples, if they're not feeling what's going on, they're breaking up.
Mm-hmm.
They're not waiting to the wedding.
Yeah, there's none of this like, well, we'll see. Well, I'll think about it. And like, I feel like they have way more balls to like have the conversations they're having and being really upfront with each other instead of trying to like low key gaslight. Like what comes to mind for me is Nancy and Bartiste. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like he was like she felt like he wasn't into her, but he kept like whether it was malicious gaslighting or not because he wanted to be on the show or whatever for as long as he could.
Yeah.
Like I can't confidently say that out like one way or the other, but that was like the contrast I'm thinking of here because like there was some weird vibe she was picking up on. He's like, no, 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 no. Like, we'll see it through to the wedding day. Like, blah, 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 blah. Like, I do care about you. I am working on it, blah, blah,
Right.
blah. And then it's like, yeah, but bro, you're just not into it.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, these people are like, yo, I'm just not into this. Or, like, after this discovery or after living together, like, we clearly aren't compatible. Like, it is what it is.
I
You know?
feel
And I'm
like
like,
they
all right.
took the opportunity of being on the show to explore the relationship, and it was through the experience of the show that they were like, yeah, this is actually not a good relationship for me. And they were like, gotta go.
Bye.
Yeah.
On to the next one. I have
Yeah.
so much respect for it. We could learn a
Yeah.
lesson from that.
Yeah. The other thing that I noticed that is not present in Love is Blind Japan is like there's none of this like possessiveness, peeing on each other type of behavior.
Yeah.
Like,
People are super respectful. Thank you.
yeah, like the fact that like, okay, I did feel like, in the pods, Priya was dating both, Wataru was dating both Priya and Midori.
Midori,
So
yeah.
it felt like once they were going to see each other on vacation, that like there was going to be a conversation. That's what we expect because that's what we've experienced. And maybe that's what I would do. I'd be like, hey girl, like let's have a chat.
Yeah.
there wasn't even a moment where there was a moment where Wataru and Priya like obviously acknowledged each other, and that was it.
Right.
And then think
Yeah.
about like what we saw on our last
Yeah.
experience with Love Is Blind, where it was just
Yeah.
like everyone was. There was an
Oh,
entire plot line around the
I
fact that people were
know.
meeting each other post pods, but they weren't dating
Multiple.
anymore. Multiple.
Yeah. Multiple plot lines. And they're like, every time the group got together, it was like, I'm playing footsies with your man. And it's
Yeah.
like, I just can't. I like, there's none of that going on here. And I'm just like, good. Wow. Respectable adults. Imagine that. Riddle me that one, Batman. Like,
Yeah, it's so
so
crazy.
kosher, so respectful. That's another lesson we could learn. It's like, they're what I love most about this cast in particular is like they stand by the decisions they make. They're like, I
Mm.
chose to commit to you. I'm committing to you. I'm
Hmm.
not like out here exploring or letting someone turn my head. It's just like I need to figure out what is going on with us. Period.
Yeah,
You know?
it's
Yeah.
like pretty simple, and then when they're talking about it, it's so chilled. Like it's emotional, but it's like appropriately emotional. It's emotional in all of the ways that it makes sense that it's emotional, but it's
Yeah.
also like, I'm so grateful for the experience that we've had together. Thank you so much.
Yeah. There's no like animosity. There's no like manipulative pokey pokey. I feel like there's a few people who I'm like I don't there's a few things that came up in these two episodes where I'm like, ooh, because of that, like I'm not sure if you're really ready for this next step. Not because like you feel ready, but because it's like there's some people pleasing tendencies coming out where it's like don't ever get married from a place of people pleasing, like
Yeah,
yikes, you know?
yeah, totally.
Um but other than that, like that's the reddest flag I've spotted so far. Like there's no like, cheating, infidelity, lying, disrespect. Like I don't see any of that, which is a
Hmm.
breath of fucking fresh air on reality TV.
Tell me about it.
This is why in America this show wasn't as popular cuz like
100%.
we are so spoon-fed drama. Like, look at the way we do our like news media. Even everything is like da da da. And so when that's why our TV show, Conscious Relationships Conversations, would never really take off here in America.
No, it would never take off in America. It'd have to be born in a different culture
And
because America is not
apparently
ready
in
for it.
Japan,
Yeah.
yeah, they're not.
Oh, it's
Maybe the
so
UK would be
interesting.
open.
Maybe Australia.
That would be fun.
Yeah, let's go to Australia.
Done.
I
I
would
have
love,
several friends in Australia. That
oh
would
my
fun as
God,
hell.
let's go. I want to go to
Yeah.
Australia so bad. It's just so far.
I know, 18 hours.
Oh God.
It's an 18-hour flight, or at least from California. I don't know what it is from Florida.
A little less maybe, but bad. Um, you have a passport, so we can literally go anywhere.
Yes, I do, bitch.
We have a
Yeah.
passport and not a lot of money between us. So
Yet.
where are we
Yet.
going? Yet. Thank
Yet.
you. Yet.
We're adding yet.
Right
Yes.
now, we're staying home.
And we're manifesting and busting our booties, and we gonna make it happen.
We're going to make it happen.
The
That's what we're
universe
doing.
wants us to go to Australia. It wants us to travel. It wants us to experience life.
Yeah.
It has the desire with us.
The universe told me that it wants us on the Gold Coast, living our best life, like engaging in the best beach experience that there ever was.
Yeah.
And the universe also wants us to like well, it wants me to drink Australian beer badly. Does it want
I'm
you?
down.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
down. Let's do it.
Okay, so just in from the universe. The universe also wants you to be able to
Yeah.
drink Australian beer on the Gold Coast with like whatever their food is, and I want to go see fish. Let's go be water bitches.
Yes, water bitches. An Australian mermaid.
Oh, I love it.
Yo, this is us just on fluids. Or me
Just
just
just on fluids. Yeah, I have some solid
and
food in my belly.
twists.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Spiritually, I'm with you on the twists and fluids, but
done.
physically, I do have some carbs in here. Okay. Also, I have to correct us before we move forward. We've been
Oh,
saying Rotaru's name wrong. It's Ryotaro.
okay, cool.
Yeah, Ryotaro. Which makes sense because I've just been skipping over the Y because I didn't know what to do with it. And that's why we are, what are we? Two dumb
Dumb
white
white bitches.
bitches.
Yeah.
That's right.
You heard it here,
Ryotaro.
folks. You heard it here first, folks, is what I was trying to say. Look, at least we're self aware and we can own up to it. We're not
Yep.
perfect, nor do we claim to be.
Ryotaro is his name. And I wanted to get this right because I love him so
Me too. I
much.
can't wait to talk. Well, we can talk about them too.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
excited. I mean, obviously, but like,
yeah.
I'm excited to get there.
Okay, let's talk about Midori and Wataru. I'd love
Yes,
to start
because
with them.
we end last week's episode on a cliffhanger. We're in this bougie ass restaurant that has the most divine looking sushi, which is a lot coming from a Pisces who doesn't want to eat her fellow fishy beings.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Will you marry me?" And cut the end. And
Yeah.
so now we start back at this amazing place. And Midori is so honest. She doesn't tell
Mm-hmm.
him what he wants to hear, which is
No, she
probably, yes,
doesn't.
I love you so much. Let's do
Mm-hmm.
it. She's like,
Mm.
well, that's hard for me to answer, but if you're willing to go on this journey with me, I'll take it. Oh man, I
I
felt for him
know.
so hard in that moment. I wanted her to say yes. Like, I love him for her.
Me too. I think many people do. I think that she's struggling. We see her struggle in like kind of a grounded way. I see her struggling a lot and I kind of relate to her experience, but also I wanted to shake her and be like, "Girl, this is okay. This is a good match. Please stop talking to your partner this way if you could help it, please." There's a couple
Yeah.
moments where like I don't really have beef with her, but I have some notes.
Love it. That's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
Hmm.
And Midori, if you'd like to come on, we'd love to talk to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. This reminds me of like when you said like I have notes, it's like at the end of any like theater,
Tech?
tech rehearsal, dress
Yeah.
rehearsal, anything, it's like you come out, you hang your feet into the orchestra pit, and the director is standing there and it's like, when you come on for this, you need to do this. When you go, so that's like
Yes.
how I feel when you're like notes. It's
Yeah, I
like,
have
all right,
notes.
cast, gather round. We're all gonna talk about what you can do better
Yeah, Midori, we thought that you were
in front of
amazing. We're so
everybody.
glad that you're here. You did a great job. And I wish you would stop talking about your partner's like weight or stomach or belly. Please don't do
Oh
that.
no.
Yeah.
No. I want to say this though. Wataru handles it like a goddamn champ. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't let that become an insecurity. He doesn't assign a story to it like, "Oh, am I not good enough for her because of this?" or like, "Oh, does she not like me because," like he's just like, "Yeah, okay, like I'm going to work on it. Like I'm going to do it, you know?" Um
I think he playfully lets her know, like, okay, we keep
that's
talking about
enough.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Um but I this was something that like even when I work with people on like dating smart, so many people get hung up in their mind about their type of like how they look physically, but it's
Mm,
like, yo, washboard abs and like jacked arms and thighs are not going to make or break your marriage.
yeah.
Like someone's character, their ability to be with you through hard moments, their like the way they communicate, the way they treat you and the people around them, like these are all way more make or break characteristics in a partnership, which he has so much of that in spades. But I feel like she's so hyper fixated on like he's not as handsome as I was hoping he would be, that
Hmm.
it's like, but get over that. Like I've been in relationships where initially I might not have been as attracted to them, but over
Hmm.
time, because of how that person is,
Hmm.
just for the human they are, like they're sexier.
Hmm.
Even I'm just gonna go there and say this now. Ryotaro with Matomi, when he's cutting her hair, I'm like, God, it's so sexy to watch a guy in his
Oh my
element.
God.
Like his
Hmm.
attractiveness went way. Like initially, I wasn't super attracted to him, but seeing him just like do his thing and be focused in that way, I was like, fuck, that's hot, you know.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
so it's like I hope that Midori gets there in that realization, especially
Hmm.
after the conversation she has with her mom, which we'll get to in a second.
Yeah.
But Yeah, y'all, like like instead of making a shopping list for your partner based off of surface level characteristics, like they need to be 6'5", they need to be slender, they need to be jacked, or they need to have this kind of sense of style. It's like, what about the heart of the person? Like they need to make me feel secure and appreciated and sexy and valued, and I want them to be able to laugh with me, and when I cry I want them to turn towards me instead of shame me for crying. Like those are the shopping list items we need to put on our partner dream
Yeah.
list.
I think that Matomi and Ryotaro are a really good example of that. And we'll talk more about them later, but they're a really good example of that because they talk about how they've fallen in love with each other's humanity. They really like
Mm,
value the people that they are and like how they live together and what becomes of the two of them when they are together. I think
yeah.
I think if I had to guess, Midori's like executive like way of building up her life and organizing herself with work and how she takes care of herself, everything's sort of got a compartment. It's sort of got a list of goals and objectives lists, and she's actually very similar in Priya in this way. It's really interesting. um but I feel like it's interfering with her ability to see what we're all seeing, what her mom even sees in Wataru, where it's just like, this is a good fit for you. This is someone who
Yeah.
like is also accepting of all of your hard edges in this way.
Yes.
Like see that there is more than just what you're looking for, which is like a passionate spark. And I think that she's really struggling without that, and
Mm,
I understand that that's something that I think a lot of us relate to, where it's like, I just don't feel it, and I appreciated that Midori's mom was sort of like, that's
yeah.
not actually exactly sustainable, that doesn't last a
Yes.
very long time. So like if you're
Yes.
hoping that that's here because you think that that's what's going to take your relationship 50 years down the line, it's not going to. It's going to be other
No.
stuff.
Yeah.
But I think that this is what's in her head when she's saying, I think Midori is like, I want to be with Wataru, but I want to have more time to be together before we decide that we're actually
To
going to get
feel those
married.
feelings.
I think that she's feeling the pressure of the show. I don't blame her. I think that she's actually a real person. I think they're both real people. I would feel the same way. I think I'd be like, I actually really like you, but also I would love to keep dating before we just got married. But
Yeah.
she's going to be taking a big risk if she says no,
Yes.
but expects that they'll keep dating, which is I think why we get to the conversation that we get to at the end of the second episode here. But um, then she's taking a big risk that she's going to lose this person who's like, hey, listen, like I've always been sure about you. I don't know if I want to be with someone who's not sure about me.
Yeah, and I get that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like, let's go back to this feeling of like obsession, in loveness, this spark concept. I have experienced it where it's not there initially, but it builds over time
Mm.
because of, again, like you get to know someone for their depth instead of like that initial, like, oh, I want to rip your clothes off. Let's go fuck. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so I want people who are listening to this show, or I wish Midori like had someone whisper in her ear and be like, look, if the way he treats you and the relationship you're building feels good and stable and secure, I can promise you in time, all of the obsessive, like romantic heart flutters are going to come.
Yeah.
They will. Because what that again, it's the icing on the cake. But like the if the bones of the relationship are there, that foundation is there, it provides that feeling to be more sustainable
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
of the emotional and physical safety of the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just breaks my heart because I think a lot of people like that go through what Midori's going through, where it's like, yeah, like technically this is great, but like emotionally I'm not. And so they eject and say bye, before prematurely because of that panic of like, well, this must not be right because I'm not feeling some kind of way.
Yeah.
And I want everyone to know that, like, again, if the nuts and bolts of the relationship are meeting your absolute must have needs, I can promise that the heart flutter, the sex, all of that is going to get better, is going to become way more of that spark chemistry feeling. It just
Yeah.
is a slow burn. It
Yeah.
escalates there instead of starting super lost in the emotional sauce and then crashing and burning like what her mom was trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Totally. I agree. Like, I think, while we're not talking about sex and intimacy on Love is
No.
Blind this season, we're talking about it here. And I agree with you. Like, if what you feel concerned about is like, I don't feel that physical chemistry, it's like, do you have everything else that you're looking for out of a partnership, especially when you think about what your partnership could look like if sex doesn't become the most important thing? Because while if sex is relevant to you as an individual and it feels relevant to you in your relationship, it will continue to be part of your relationship and should be nurtured and taken with care and consideration, but it's not going to be the most important thing.
No.
So, but if you're worried that it's just not there, I just don't feel it, you being in a safe relationship, as Alex is talking about, is going to give you the platform to be able to build up probably the best sex you could
For
ever imagine
real.
having in a long-term relationship.
Yeah, and I can 100% like from my own experience like I can say 100% like that's exactly what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Um so don't shy away. Don't shy away if someone makes you feel secure and safe and you don't have to guess where you stand with them, but you might not be feeling all of the lovey-dovey, sparky butterfly feelings yet. It's a yet. Like
Yeah.
it will come. Just
Yeah.
give it the time it needs to. And I think that's kind of why Midori, a part of her wants to wait, is she wants to feel that first.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, with the way that the show is designed, you're not going to get that time. So,
I know, I'm upset with her. I got to be honest, because, and again, reasonably upset with her, like sort of like, girl, I want to slap you on the wrist, not like I want to cancel you. I love her. I
right,
think
right, right.
she's a gem.
Totally
But
get it.
but the thing is, I'm frustrated with her because she's being really honest and she's honoring her truth, and I appreciate that. But the way that she's talking to Wataru about some of these things, I think could be handled, and maybe we're getting some of this lost in translation, but I think it could be
Totally.
handled with a little bit more like kid-friendly gloves, because
Yeah.
I feel like he's taken a lot. He's taken a lot of punches, and
Yeah.
she has no ill intent in what she's sharing. It's not coming from a reactive place, but it's sort of like, hey, I really appreciate that you're working out with me because we really need to take care of that extra weight around your stomach. And I'm like, oh, you could have just stopped when you
Oh,
said, I really appreciate you working out with me because I really love doing this together. And then
yeah.
she's like, saying like, I don't know. She's just talking about life as if like she's giving him feedback that I don't think he really needs to hear, at least not in this way. And
No.
and I think that she's taking a big risk in which at any point he might be like, hey, I don't actually really love to hear you say this, or this makes me concerned, or this makes me feel like you
Yeah.
actually aren't attracted to me, or this makes me feel like you don't feel as certain as I do, and that's fine, but can we talk about that? Like, I feel like
Yeah.
she's just putting her foot in her mouth, and because he's being such a champ and he's really allowing her to get away with all of it, and he's not ignoring it, but he's also sort of like, I'm still here, I'm still in this, I love you, let's keep doing this, yada yada yada. I feel like she's just so comfortable, and she will have an interview and she'll be like, I'm so glad we talked about it. And I'm like, like she actually doesn't realize that there's the way that she brought this up was like not super nice.
Yeah. I mean, her mom, I feel like she might get that from her family because her mom is like, you're not perfect either, like, which is a
Yeah.
very blunt thing to
Yeah.
say. So I think part of it is like monkey see, monkey do in that way. But I hope Wataru, if it does bother him, because, like, you know, I hope if she doesn't pick up on the playful side of him trying to be like, okay, stop. Um, I hope he sits her down and is like, babe, I understand like you're really excited for me to be like working towards this goal and you're really proud of me for coming like for desiring that goal. And at the same time, when you remind me of it, it makes me feel less sexy. It makes me feel less appreciated. And I know that that's not your intent.
Hmm.
So moving forward, could you just be mindful of the way that like what you say, like how it comes across?
Boom.
Um, yeah, I hope he can articulate. I feel like he can. I feel like if I was gonna choose a guy off the show, I would 100% choose Wataru.
Ooh.
Wataru. Jesus, Wataru.
I do love him. He and Ryotaro would be my
Your
top
two.
two. Hmm.
I would do Wataru or Misaki. Couldn't you see
Mm.
me with a guy like Misaki?
I could, but I also think you'd get frustrated. I think you would get similarly frustrated.
Really?
Hmm.
Okay, cool.
We can
I
talk
love
about it when
that.
we get there. I
Okay.
think you'd be like, this is my fucking buddy, this is my fucking guy, and I totally could not agree more.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, we'll get there.
I love it. I love
Uh-huh.
this. Hypothetical.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Who's next?
Um Wait, last thing that we get left with. We get another Midori and Wataru cliffhanger.
Oh yeah. I
So
literally have end scene in my
yeah,
notes.
so at the end of their like last night together, which I love. I think that they're a great fucking couple.
Me too.
I do appreciate that Midori, after talking to her mom, and her mom was like, I have no like hesitations at all. Like I think this is a great
Yeah.
match. Like I don't even know why you're nitpicking. Like please,
Get over
please,
yourself.
yeah,
It's
get
like what
over
her mom was
yourself.
trying to say. It was like,
Basically. It was funny. But I
yep.
also appreciated that conversation was like it sort of spoke volumes about their relationship, where mom was saying some things where I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
ouch, ouch, ouch.
Same. But Midori was like, okay, it's my mom. Like, yeah.
Also, the relationship that the two of them have is very playful. Like it's serious, but it's playful. So when they're like throwing digs at each other, they're also like throwing something like a ball or something between them, which allowed me to sort of feel like, okay, them criticizing each other must actually be within a really safe relationship. Like it's safe to give feedback like that between each other, which made me feel better about their relationship.
Yeah.
But at first I was like, ouch. I
Yeah.
don't know if I'd like that.
Yeah.
But afterwards Midori was like, I have a new perspective. Like I actually find him to be more attractive to me because I think that I'm seeing him for all that he is as a partner, and I'm realizing how lucky I am to be with someone like him. And I'm like, that's the fucking
Yeah.
moment. That's the
Yeah.
moment. But so we get to the end of their like wedding evening experience, like the evening before their wedding. And she basically asked, and again, I give her credit for being honest about this, because I think that this is the foundation of their relationship. I think they're honest with each other, sometimes to a fault. But she's like, hey, it like what would you do if I said no? Hypothetically.
Yeah.
It's just like a hypothetical random world. What would you do if I said no? Because I think that and then that's where it cuts off. But I think that the
Mhm.
conversation that she's trying to have is like, if I say no, it's not to marriage to you forever. It's marriage to you right now. And I really want to still be together. Is that within the realm of possibility for
I
us?
wish she had articulated all of that because I don't feel like she did. And I'm like, when she asked this, I was like, this is a stupid question. Like, I remember
Yes.
being like, why the fuck are you asking that? He's a grown ass man. What is he gonna do? Move on with his fucking life. Like, will he
Mm-hmm.
be upset? Yes. Will he cry? Yes. Will he run after you from the altar? We don't know. Maybe.
Yes.
But like, why are you inquiring? Like,
Yeah.
what are you hoping to get out of this hypothetical question? Him being like, I would be scorned for the rest of my life. Woe
Yeah.
is me. Like,
Or like,
no.
or taking a risk of him hopefully saying exactly what you want to hear, which is like, we would still figure things out. Like maybe we don't have to do the marriage right now. You know what I mean? It's just like, what is it that you want? Tell him what you want. Don't like put him in this
Tell
weird
me what you want, what you want.
every answer could be the wrong answer question.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So that's them.
So that's that. Okay, who's next?
Mm, maybe Priya and Mizuki.
Okay, cool. So Priya goes to visit him at work and they make them this really fucking cool looking dish that I was like, I want to try that. I'm
Yeah. It
like,
was like a
yeah.
steak tartare bowl of
With
sorts. It
a
was dope.
nice egg yolk on top, which is like food porn for me. I'm like, yes, egg
Yeah.
yolk on top.
Yeah,
Oh, fuck, I'm getting
gooey.
hungry. Listening to
No.
us swearing enough. So she visits him at work, and his business partner Tanabe, if I'm saying his name right,
Tanabe.
maybe yeah,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
is there, and it comes to light that Tanabe is the one
Who owns
100%
it?
financially backing the business, which means technically he's the owner. And Mizuki, from what I understand, has been presenting himself as an owner as well and
Yeah.
calling Mr. Tanabe his business partner. And so Priya gets a little like, okay, so you're an employee.
Yeah.
You're not a business owner. You're an employee.
And she was not shy about having that conversation right in that way in that room.
No, I was just, and then she starts to ask hard questions like, why didn't you let him contribute at all? Like, what if it was 15%, 25%? And it's just like, I have so many mixed feelings about this. On the one hand, I get it. And on the other hand, I'm like, it's unattractive in the way that it's like, I get why she's concerned.
Yeah.
And I get that that fear is causing her to step into this very like masculine, like interrogating, questioning again. And it's like, it's so off putting. Like, I
Yeah.
felt uncomfortable watching it. And
Yeah.
it's like, if you're trying to establish connection, if you're trying to establish rapport, I don't think this is the way to go about it. And so here's what I feel is has been happening for Priya. I feel like since the moment Mizuki ordered that expensive bottle of wine, she's been poking holes from all these angles instead of just being having a conversation after that bottle of wine, which again, we don't know
If it
if
happened
they
or
did
not.
or didn't, but like that would have been the time to be like, let me check in with you on this because like from my lens, this is what it feels like and seems like. It seems like you feel the need to posture, and I just want you to know I'm not that kind of girl. And then
Yeah.
they could have had that convo earlier on and built a relationship on more honesty where he felt safe to come with her with all these other nitty-gritty details.
Yeah.
Because he ends up taking responsibility. He's like, I feel bad that I made her shocked because I didn't really communicate
I wasn't
clearly like
totally
what.
honest with her.
Yeah. And I was proud of him for saying that because that's hard to do.
Yes. I think this is my understanding of what's going on. And I agree with you. Uh, the way that Priya has been approaching this, I think she has had a gut feeling that this is not the right match for her. And I think that instead of actually focusing on establishing connection, because I don't think that she's been trying to do that at all.
Me
I
neither.
think she's been trying to figure out, why is it that I know that this isn't the right connection? I need to figure it out.
It's like
So
a little avoidant-y. Like,
it's avoiding, and I to some degree, I want to defend her and protect her, because I think I get it in the way of like, I didn't really know this person. We didn't have a lot of time to connect. We got engaged. We're in this situation. Like, I have this gut feeling and I kind of need to like source it out. I need to figure it out.
yeah.
But it's just a totally different priority than being like, let me lean in and see if we fall in love. So she's and I understand her concerns, because I
Yeah.
think Mizuki has done himself a disservice. I think he's a good guy, but I think that he is not.
People pleaser.
Yeah, I think he's people pleasing, and I don't think he's mature enough to realize that like this the relationship that Priya is asking for is one of substance and of honesty. I think that if she heard in the pods, I work as like first employee at my best friend's restaurant. Like, he treats me like a business partner. I eventually will have some claim in the company, but right now I am like, I'm just number one. Yeah, I'm number one guy. I'm everything, and like I have big dreams for myself, but I live off of small margins. I think that if he was really honest with that, she would have been like, let's ride, let's go. Or who knows? She says that, but who really knows? But for him, I think that he's taken what he believes Priya to be, which is a serious woman with serious goals and wants a serious life for herself. And he's tried to inflate himself to match
Yeah.
her needs, or what he assumes her needs are. And that has been the biggest mistake that he's made. And he's done it
To
in a
his
couple of different
detriment.
ways.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like what we're talking about is he is inflated what he hopes to make per month. He's inflated his role in the steakhouse. He is inflated, like, and he continues to kind of do this where every time Priya is like, hey, I actually don't need that from you. I just want you to be honest with me. I want you to be honest with yourself. Um, and then instead, at the end of their like time spending together, he's like, this is the type of life that I want us to have. Like, here we are at this restaurant, eating food, drinking wine. This is what I want. I hope we can continue doing this. And I'm like, I get that he's trying to hold on, but I'm like, dude, you're not getting it. I mean,
Yeah.
he didn't have a shot at this point anyway, but
Mhm.
I was like, you're not there.
Yeah, I feel Mizuki. I feel like this was very it was like it wasn't a toxic anxious avoidant thing because it didn't go around and around the mulberry bush a lot, but that for me is what it felt like. She was like hyper fixated on like, this is why this isn't going to work, which caused him to be like, let me be the person you like, do you love me yet? Let me be that person. Like,
Yes.
look at my business, look at, this is what I want for us, love me, love me, love me.
Yes.
And she picked up on that, which pushed her away even more. So like, it really was an anxious avoidant bit of a dance going on. It's just not as drastically anxious avoidant as what we've seen with some more Americanized television, but like
Yeah.
that is what it was. Is like he was people pleasing from a place of choose me, love me, accept me, connect with me. And
Yeah.
she was hyper fixated on this isn't right, this isn't right, this is why it's not going to work. Yikes, yikes, yikes. And of course that's going to repel them away from each other. So lesson learned there from watching them. And my hope for them both is like Priya, like I think, you know, she's a badass chick. She has her shit together, she has her goals together, she has a business that she owns, like amaze. And I think my biggest feedback for her, if we were gonna do notes, is like learn how to communicate in a softer, more approachable way. Because like I understand wanting to be cut and dry, like I understand the need to be direct, but we can be direct with soft gloves, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would behoove her in her relationships, because right now with the directness she carries about herself, for a man, if again it feels very masculine in energy, which pushes the guy to kind of like into this submissive nature. And I know that's not what she wants in a partner. She wants a guy who's going to out masculine energy her, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like my feedback for her is that. And my feedback for Mizuki is like, bro, you're enough. Like, own who you are, own where you're
Mm-hmm.
at. Your vibe is going to attract the right person for you, and rest in that power because
Mm-hmm.
it's the truth. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to be accepted and chosen because of this fake persona you've presented. You want to be accepted and chosen for the number one employee, Mr. Tanabe's right hand man that you are right now, and that you're going. He even said, like, I want to give him the business someday, which is amazing. You know, that's
Yeah.
still an amazing place to be in. So
Yeah.
own it, bro.
I
Like,
think
that
I
is enough.
I think that like I think what I appreciate about this situation in Priya is that's exactly her point. I don't know if she
Yeah.
got a chance to say this, but she's not saying like I'm leaving you because you live a smaller life than you promised.
No.
She's
No.
saying I'm leaving you because you're not being who you are, and it's making it really hard for me to know you and trust you
Exactly.
and get to know
Yeah.
what kind of life this is going to be. What I'm looking for in a partnership is one that I feel like I'm actually a part of and I understand what it
Mhm.
is. This I don't understand. I don't know who you are. You keep telling me different things.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And I, you know, I have a lot of respect for her for calling it, because it's like
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't enough time for him to change his ways. Like, someone doesn't develop a sense of self-love and self-confidence overnight like that to where they can be like, okay, well, I'm going to own it from here on forward. It's
Mm-hmm.
something that over the 3 weeks they've been getting to know each other since leaving the pods has compounded, not gotten less. So um
Mm-hmm.
it was definitely the right call to make. But I feel for both of them, because I mean Priya's gonna be fine. I feel
Mm-hmm.
for Mizuki because I feel like that insecurity is still there, and I hope he just figures it out. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So another one bites the dust.
Now, chicka wow. Okay, should we talk about? Okay, who do we have left? We have
Haruya
Shintaro.
Misaki, Shintaro Ayano, Matomi Ryotaro.
Okay, okay. Let's talk about Kaoru and Misaki.
Hokidoke. He visits her at the studio to watch her sing-a-ling and make her music. What?
Yeah,
Sing-a-ling-a-ling.
that.
La 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 la.
Yeah, and he was like, I mean, I wasn't getting stoked from him, but what I did uh, hear from him was he was like, I love this. Like, I'm attracted to this. It's so cool. I'm so
Yeah.
impressed. I think the subtitles read, I envy her. And I'm like, okay, he's loving this.
Yeah.
Also, there was a like interview, like post-production interview moment with Misaki where his hair was totally different because it must have been like
Oh,
later. And
I didn't know
first I was
that.
like, who is this? Yeah, his hair was like longer and parted down the middle. And I was like, whoa, cutie alert. And I had to like back up. I'm like, is this Misaki? And then ever since I saw that interview, it was in episode 9. Ever since I saw that interview, all of the other images that I saw of him while the show was like being filmed, I just wanted to like part his hair. I just want to take his big
You feel
mushroomy
like that's
cut.
his look.
Oh my god, it was his look. I was
Oh,
like,
damn,
yeah,
Brianna,
I
getting
know. I know, but
toasted.
we're never gonna get a reunion to see the update.
What he
Maybe it's
looks
on
like
like
now.
Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
So
crazy.
gross.
That was crazy what you just did. I loved it. I love you.
Are you
But
sure?
damn, that was crazy.
You guys, it's the grapefruit juice.
Yeah, it's turn up juice. It's turn up
It's
time.
it's the grapefruit juice and my lack of sleep last night.
Yeah. Yeah, it's honestly it's making for great podcasting and good content. So thank you. We love
Yeah,
it. Okay, so
yeah.
they go hang out in the studio, then they like talk later on. There's a little bit more chatting than there is like life living with these
Yeah.
two. But basically I think they're trying to organize their communication issues. And I think I still stand by what we were saying last week, which like Caro could tolerate to be with someone who's a little like lighter about life and like knows how to relax. But I, after this episode, I understand her resistance to him. And this is why I think that you would get like a little frustrated by him, because she's asking him to uh, be more engaged in the moment and not just focused on positivity as a cure-all, because what she reflected as they did talk about, I should talk about this. They talk about her dad. They talk about her family.
Right.
She was like, he was like, I really have been curious about your insecurities. What are they? And she was like, okay, well, now is a good time to talk about them, I guess. My dad was arrested for like holding drugs, and she had said something else and I kind of missed it, but basically it's caused rupture in her relationship with her dad. It totally changed how she sees her dad. That was obviously very hard for her, and it's been a relationship that she's been trying to navigate. I don't think that they're in touch right now. I think that she wants to rebuild the relationship, and it's rightfully so really hard for her. And Misaki was pretty dismissive, and he was just
I
like,
didn't interpret it that way, so I'm so
oh,
interested to have this
interesting.
conversation. Mm-hmm.
He was saying things like, well,
It's in the
it
past.
happened. Yeah, it's in the
Yeah.
past. It happened. So, like, it sounds good that you have an idea of trying to get back together with your dad, and
Yeah.
it happened. And it just like, and maybe it was the editing, but I'm curious what you thought.
I really thought it was his way of trying to comfort her by being like, okay, like it's a part of your story and it's in the past and it's really admirable the way you perceive him and like you wish him
Mm,
well and like that was good. I felt like it was his way of trying to tell her like I don't judge you for this because the reason I was kind of like looking for how he responded was because when we learned this about Karu in the pods, she shares like some people won't accept this about me. Like that's kind of a big deal. She left out the part where he was arrested with another woman, like he was
yeah,
having an affair,
yeah,
which I thought was interesting that like she left that part out. But I was really curious to see if he was going to be like judgmental of her, and so
right.
when he was like, yeah, okay, but it's in the past and like you're moving on and like it's nice that you don't like look at him with animosity, and he's like, it sounds like there's aspects of your father that are a wonderful man and like he did what he did and like but that doesn't define him. Like I really felt that I didn't take it as dismissiveness in the sense of like, okay, well it was in the past. Like I don't want to talk about
Mm,
it anymore. I
mm,
took it as him trying to be like, I want you to know, like, I don't judge you for that experience,
yeah.
you know?
I get that.
Um,
I don't think I agree. Like I think that he probably met her expectations of not being judged,
right.
but they talk about it later on when they're reflecting on
Yes.
this. That
Yeah.
the reason why I kind of agree with her when she's
Hmm.
like, I wish you asked me more questions. I wish that you were engaged, is because while she's talking about something that happened in the past, she's also obviously it's affecting the version of her that exists right now. And I think the reason why it felt dismissive to me when I heard it was sort of like he's like, well, it's in the past and that's, it's behind you and blah blah blah. And it's not honoring that like she's still dealing with this even though it happened. Like she's still clearly like upset. Obviously it took her so long to even talk about it. She's carrying a lot of shame. She doesn't like whatever. So she talks about it later and she's like, I wish you asked me more questions. She wanted him to be with her in the moment instead of silver lining it.
Right. And I understand that too. And I thought his response to that was really good. He was like, from that example, I totally get it. And moving forward, I'll be better. And he's like, unless I'm too late, because he picked up on that. He was like, I feel like you're just kind of checked out.
Yeah.
But I get that. And here's the other. So for someone like myself who has a lot of stories to share about, don't have a relationship with my father, not out of my choice, but because of this. Don't have a relationship with my mother from a place of choice because of this. And oh, by the way, I'm divorced. And like, I have a laundry list of things to share with a new person that I'm dating. People don't always ask me questions because they don't want to pry and they don't want to feel like they're interrogating me. And even with my boyfriend today, that's kind of how it started. It was just, at first it was just like, okay, like, cool. Thanks for letting me know. Like, no judgment. Like, I don't define. And there have been people who are like, really? Like, you don't feel lonely? Like, they get a little like, that's weird, which those types are like, thanks for playing next.
Yeah.
But then as time goes on and I develop more emotional connection and rapport with someone, questions will start to come, and then that we can go a little bit deeper. And so maybe because of my lens of my own life experience, that's how I perceived Misaki, is like, he's trying to just be like, no judgment, like blah, 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 because their connectedness is lacking. And so maybe he didn't feel safe to ask questions because, it's like she hasn't been super nurturing and like emotionally open with him either. So I hear both sides.
Yeah.
My experience of Misaki was way more benefit of the doubt. Like, I don't think he was trying to be dismissive, but I can absolutely understand why Karu interpreted him that way.
I want to offer a middle ground and you tell me what you think, how this would feel for you. But I wonder if it would have been helpful, and I wonder if it would be helpful for people who's like on the receiving end of like hearing the story sharing. Because the person who's sharing the story is the person who's sharing the story is doing a lot of emotional labor in that moment, right?
Yeah.
It's like that. Right. It's like, it's a big moment. You're like, okay, I'm about to open these floodgates. I'm about to open this up and it's going to be interpreted and taken however it is. And at this point, it's no longer out in my control of how, of where this story is. Right. Exactly. And so I think I wonder if it would be helpful if the person who's receiving the story sharing to be able to be like, I want to ask you what your preference is. Is this something that you want to talk more about? Is it something that you're okay? Like, would you like for me to ask questions, or would you like for me to just receive it and take this and know it now?
Yes. And I completely agree with that. Like, the way, because I am in this line of work, the way that I have shared it is I'll explain the Cliff Notes version where like I'm not in contact with my parents, and like I'll kind of breeze over like a few reasons why, but nothing in depth. And I'll be like, if you have any questions, I'm an open book. Like I equip them with that. But if like for anyone listening to this and you're dating, or maybe you're in a new relationship where they shared something that might be a little heavy, yes, always being like, hey, is now a good time to ask questions? Would you rather me wait? Like, thank you so, like, actually what I would say is lead with a thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that with me. That means so much that you're comfortable. I'm curious to know, like, where you're at right now, or do you want to unpack this together? Like, I have a couple questions, but I totally respect the fact if now isn't the right time and we need to spend a little bit more time together before we get there,
Mm-hmm.
and let them decide, because it does feel scary. Like, especially the first few times where I had to, like, fresh out of my divorce and a year later I was dating again, I was fucking terrified to explain
Totally.
to someone. And yeah, and so it's like I would have really appreciated if someone had responded to me in that way,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
Now, because I am who I am and do this kind of shit all the time, it's like,
You'll equip people.
so if you have, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
if you have questions, go for it. And
Yeah.
there's other times where it's like, if I'm for example, something came up the other day that was really emotional, and at first I just needed to be with my emotions, and I was like, don't ask questions right now, but like, I just,
Yeah.
you know, like, and that's okay
Yeah.
too. Yeah,
100%. But that is still equipping someone, what you did.
exactly.
It's
Yep.
like, don't ask questions. I don't, like, I can't even tolerate answering
No.
questions right now. I just like
Yeah.
I need to be in this moment. And
Heard.
like, I'll let you
Yeah.
know. I'll let you know when
Yep.
I'm like available to chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like, I agree. I don't think that Misaki like did any of this with ill intent. I think that unfortunately it proved the thing that Caro was already insecure about when it came to their
Yeah.
connection, which was this person is not doesn't see the world in the same way that I do. Now, do I think that Caro could tolerate to be with someone who does see the world differently than she does? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I can appreciate that it feels like, you know what? She's just, as she said, she was like, I appreciated this other thing that she said, where she was like, I love that you like take on positivity in your perspective of the world. And it's amazing. But when I feel like the negativity that I share and express is dismissed, I, I, I want you to know that the things that I've gone through, the negative things that I've gone through, the bad things have also added up to who I am.
Who I am. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that that was a really important thing for her to be able to express, because I think what she's saying is like, just because it's negative doesn't mean that it's all bad. And I don't want to feel
Yeah.
that because you're glossing over the things that are negative and trying to make it positive. I don't want to feel like there's no like that the parts of me that exist because of these things are also going to be glossed over, which I don't think that
Yeah.
he would do. But I do think that it was going to be important if they were to continue to be together. I think it was going to be important for her to be able to be like, hey, these things add up to my experience. They add up to who I am. They add up to how I define my life up until this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, so I don't think we can really gain clarity on if they officially split or not,
They
right?
do. They do.
They do? Okay, great.
Yeah.
I just remember that last convo where she says, like, like, I wish you'd ask questions, and he was like moving forward, but I guess I missed the official
Yeah.
split.
So in the second
Yeah,
episode of these
episode.
two, um, so this is after like the bachelorette party.
Yeah.
So after the bachelorette party, then next we see a lot of filming of Caro's face at the bachelorette party, where I'm like,
She looks
she
disappointed. Yeah.
looks really disappointed. You can tell that she is not feeling her position. I think that I think the other girls are being pretty honest about their like relationship, and Midori's like, yep, not attracted to his face, blah
Oh
blah blah.
god.
And but you're also still seeing Caro, I think, sort of settling in that like this isn't what she wants to do. She doesn't have the same kind of connection that some of these other girls have with their
Yeah.
partners, and she's out. So the next thing that we see is Misaki comes home from work. They talk. He's like, I know that you wanted to talk. She's like, yep. In the relationship so far, I've just really felt like this hasn't like, oh, she says, us talking about the wedding and knowing that both of our families are going to be there, I take family so seriously, and I don't feel confident enough to be able to bring all of our family there and get up there and say yes. So I think I have to say no, and I need to say no now. And then she does try
Respectable.
to tell him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she tries to tell him like, I've really appreciated, like, there have been times when you've made me really happy. I've really appreciated my time spent with you. And then he reflects back to
Mhm.
her. He's like, you've taught me a lot. You've taught me a lot about how I need to like engage in conversations a little bit differently and listen a little bit differently. And I really appreciate that. And I'm grateful for you, and I'm grateful for this time. And And
Yeah.
then she leaves and then he's emotional and then that's it.
He cried. Oh, I do
Yeah.
remember that. I was like, and then he
Yeah.
sheds a tear. Is like what I put in my
Yeah.
notes. Um, you know, I wanna I wanna take a moment and highlight this. You
Mm.
know, my boyfriend was telling me about a really good girl that's a friend of his, or a friend that's a girl,
Yeah.
and she is mid 30s and like on the struggle bus of dating here in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you know, there's a part of her that her fight response comes online when she's rejected. Like she
Mm.
goes from like, well, if they're gonna reject me, then I'm gonna call them a fuck boy. Like that's like how she tries to like guard protect herself, you know?
Yeah.
And I get it. But like my thing here is like, you know, because I understand, like, it fucking hurts. Like, when someone
Mm.
doesn't choose us, it hurts our feelings. It feels icky. It brings up some self questioning, especially when we don't have a solid relationship with self, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why am I not chosen? Why wasn't I good enough again? Why did this happen to me? What is it going to take for me to meet a guy who values me and appreciates me and sees my worth, right? Like, I've been
Mm.
there. I fucking feel it. And at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, what I really want anyone watching this show with us to take from it is like, can we look at the missed relationships, the things that didn't work out, and pull the threads out of those experiences for what did we learn? How did it impact us in a good way? Like, what can we take moving forward into a new experience where we can do better, right?
Mm.
Even as something as toxic as my like abusive relationship, it's like, what did I learn? Oh, I
Mm.
learned that when someone shows me who they are, fucking believe them. What else
Yeah.
did I learn? I learned that no one ever is going to have my back better than myself. Okay.
Mm.
Like, we can really take the time to sit down and instead of just me, like, looking at, again, abusive ex boyfriend and being like, you're a fuck boy and like, this is how bad you are and F you and da 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 da, like instead of just sitting in my fight, which by the way I want to make room for, like, be in your fight response, especially leaving something unhealthy at first, let that fuel you.
Yeah.
And as the healing takes place, we will eventually get to a point to where we can look at things and self-reflect and be like, oh, this is the value out of it, even with something as unhealthy as that, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And so I really love that, like, every single couple that we've seen on Love is Blind Japan, when they do part ways, they take a moment to say that to one another.
I
Like, I didn't
know.
regret this, you know? And like, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about what I was looking for in a partner and what works and doesn't work for me. And it's like, that's the thing with relationships, is it's all trial and error. And the other thing is you're going to get a lot more no's than you are yeses, because there's
Mm-hmm.
a fuck ton of human beings here
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, we could potentially be compatible with, and there's a fuck ton of human beings we won't be compatible with.
Mm.
And so it's just like, instead of taking it all so personally and assigning a story of like, why am I not good enough? Why isn't this working? It's way more just like, okay, I'm learning. I'm learning. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
step closer to what I want. I'm a step closer to the relationship I'm going after. And it doesn't define us. It does
Mm.
not define us. It also doesn't define the other person, you know?
Mm. I'm making grunting sounds out of frustration because this is like what I wanted out of my last breakup. I like wanted to be able, and I like,
Mm,
I don't, it's fine. You do it for yourself, you know, but I
yeah.
wanted to be able, instead of having a conversation in which I'm being gaslit into being like, no, I want to be in a relationship with you. This is so good. I want the same things. Like, let's go forward.
I'm
And
a
I'm
mess
like,
with your words.
I feel like you just told me that you didn't want that, but okay. Um, I would have loved to be able to talk to this person and be like, what a, you didn't know this, but what a healing experience this has been for me. And I'm so grateful for you, you know?
Yeah.
And like, not that I need to hear, but I would love to be able to hear from a place of genuineness and not for the sake of trying to like get me to
Rescue.
be this
Yeah.
person's girlfriend, but like
Ugh.
I would have loved to hear like, you know, I felt really accepted by you and not judged, and that was really nice during a really specific time of my life. That would have been
Yeah.
really beautiful to hear. I get to tell myself that. I have the power to do that. I believe myself when I tell myself it. That's totally fine. But yeah, I would have loved a closing conversation. And like we talk about closure, unless closure is going to happen like that, like you don't do
It doesn't
closure.
exist.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. Because what I can tell you closure isn't is being like, I just need to see them one more time for closure. And then you see each
No.
other and then you fuck each other and
Make
then you're
out.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, and then you're
You're
in the same
back on
place.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not the vibe.
So I love that. We saw that with every couple
I
in this
know.
show.
I love it. Thank you for leading by example on like healthy breakups where like it can still hurt without us being angry and like violent in an accusatory with it, right? Like
Hmm.
we can be rejected and have that sting and still be tender and like,
Hmm.
ooh, like, oh yeah, that hurts. And guess what? I'm gonna be okay. And like,
Yeah.
look at what I got from this. And like, I'm a step closer to what I actually do want because of this experience. It's like,
Hmm.
it's all happening for us, babes. It's all happening for us. And when we can really own that mentality, like life and relationships become so much more beautiful. So for whoever needed to hear that.
We gave it to you. Okay, that's that on them.
Shantaro and Ayano.
Shantaro and Ayano.
Okay. They go out for a nice dinner. He's taking photos of all the food, which she is like a little put off by. I thought that was interesting that she was put off by
I
it.
wanted to ask you about this. How do you feel about folks, specifically people that you're on dates with, though maybe I can ask you about friends too.
Yeah.
People who are phone eats first type of people, which is what Jamie calls that.
That's cute that Jamie calls it that.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a quick photo and
Mm.
it's like boop, okay, moving on, fine. If it's like gotta get the right angle, like, and it takes up like 5 to 10 minutes of each course that comes out, I'm gonna get a little like, okay, be present with me. So I can understand that. Also, line of work I think is a contributor, and apparently that's part of his line of work.
Yeah, he was like, I have followers.
Yeah, that was funny. But like for me, you know, being in the events industry, like when I go to an event, a concert, anything, it's like you bet your ass I'm looking at signage, I'm looking at like, and I'll make comments and I'll take photos being like, ooh, that's a great signage or that's a shitty signage situation. It could be improved and like whatever. But I still am very present in my life, even though I guess technically I'd be considered an influencer, but it's like we can do both. You know, it doesn't need to be one way or the other. And so I wish Ayano communicated that though. That's my biggest thing with this gal is that she has a lot of feelings and a lot of thoughts, but she doesn't share them. She just like harbors them. And I think that's what Shantaro picks up on. And I don't think she's not maliciously gaslighting him, but she is gaslighting him because she's like, no, I'm fine. And like, you know, this is just how I am. And it's like, but you're then going into a confessional being like, what's up with the food picture taking? Like, yo, you ask him that. Ask him that. And then be like, you know what I really value? Like, I think it's great that you have chefs that follow you and that of course they want to see it. I really value being present with my partner. And so the next course, like, could you maybe like take one quick shot and then we can keep talking? Like instead of it being, which I felt like he wasn't taking that much time, but again, editing, we don't know.
Yeah, I think that there was a moment where she was trying to talk to him and he's like eating the food and he's really focused on the food because it's his thing. It's like one of his things of many. And he was like, yeah, I'm sorry. I was really focused on the food. And so I think I appreciate Ayano's like decision to be like, I'm going to take the reins here. I want us to do a thing to give us a space so that we can talk and like, let's get real with each other. I want to see this side of him and I want to do something else and see another side of him. Like I appreciate where she was coming from with all of this. I have this, like, this is a jumpsuit and there's a little button that, but I'm not fastening it properly. So every once in a while I'm like, that's come undone.
Girl, let it be undone.
Let it be undone. Just show it, like, just let a little nip slip happen. Maybe two.
Okay.
Like, what am I going to the bathroom and need to be naked on the toilet just to get out of this jumpsuit? Ooh.
God, isn't that the worst though? Okay, sidebar. Ladies going to the bathroom in rompers is a mission. If it's a loose enough romper where you can just pull the panties to the side, vibes.
Go for it. Go for it. Yeah, if there's
like
some
the
elasticity,
dancer days, you just move the Leo over.
Like,
yeah.
You got to do what you got to do sometimes to
Yeah,
not be naked
you
in
know,
a public
it's
restroom.
yes. Oh, that feels so violating.
Oh my God. It's sort of like, huh. I don't even want to touch my bare hands on any of these
On
surfaces,
the
and my entire
walk.
naked body is exposed. It's very jarring.
It's like you bring a travel size Lysol with you everywhere.
Ugh, yeah, you just want to like
Anyway,
hold your nipples and be like, "We're safe, we're fine.
COVID
As
free.
as long as I'm in my body, I am safe. As long as I'm in my body,
Yes,
I am safe."
literally. Oh my God. Yes.
Okay. So, I appreciate what Ayana was doing, but I don't think that she was setting herself up for success. I think that like unfortunately she was like, "Let's go out to a nice dinner and like let's get dressed up." But she like is with her like fancy boyfriend that like has a food Instagram and like loves to like you took him to the wrong type of place for you to like
Him
have
to
his
be
full
focused on
attention.
you.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I did feel like I learned a lot about both of them over these two episodes
Yeah.
because we see Ayano sort of as I was describing, she's like, I want to bring him to a playful thing. I want to have him meet my friends. Like, and Shantaro brings her to see his family home, which also happens to be like a tourist destination. That's super crazy.
So wild, right?
Yeah, it was cool. I wanted to see more of it, but of course, this is like not a travel show.
When we go to Japan, we need to go to there.
Let's go to there.
We do. I love how
Yeah.
she was like, "Oh my God, crane!" And then like the
It's a fake
camera
crane.
gets it's so fake. I was like,
Oh, girl, I had the
"Oh,
same
fashion
moment.
crane."
I,
Yeah.
I had the same moment. I was like, oh, girl, that crane's not real. That's an iron crane.
Oh shit, that was a knee slapper. It was like
Yeah.
the editing team did her dirty on that.
Oh, yeah. They were like, we're about to read this bitch with no words. Um,
Oh shit,
that
that's
was
the
funny.
best.
But I did appreciate, like, I learned a couple things about the two of them through Ayano's friends, which there's a question here, but like,
Yeah.
um
Tell me. I
with
can't wait.
Ayano's friends, it was sort of like it was confirmation for us as the audience and Shantaro that it's like what you see is what you get with Ayano. So as like light and playful and cutesy and like kind of whimsical and like I just make my art and I giggle and stuff like that
Yeah.
is kind of true. However, it didn't leave me questioning like do her friends really know who she is?
Same. I was like, so again, I keep going back to what we learned about her in the pods every week because like in the pods she shares with us, they moved around a lot when she was a kid, and so she grew up feeling like she had to put other people's needs and kind of in a way like she describes shrink herself to like keep the family peace because so much was always happening. And
Yeah.
I'm still seeing that in her day-to-day life. Like she's a master chameleon. She and Mizuki, in my opinion, are very similar
Mm,
to each other in the sense where they're like, who do I need to be with each group to be accepted?
mm,
And I think something that Ayano learned over time is like being nurturing and cute, always going to win, you
yeah.
know? And so I think those are like her two surface level qualities because I think the depths of who Ayano is, she doesn't have that relationship with self to like own that and show that to not
Hmm.
only Shintaro, but her friend group. And so her friends are kind of like, I'm kind of curious why her friends aren't like, yeah, actually, I really want to get to know your depths too, because you're kind of, this is just who you are. And it's like, isn't that discerning to you a little bit? Like,
Mm-hmm. It was
you
to
know,
me. It was to
for me
me.
too. I was like, I don't know if I could be friends with someone like, because I feel that, you know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's like I can feel when someone's not like fully being them because it's always like, again, like the Japanese kawaii type vibe, like that's very
Yeah.
much how Ayano, and again, gorgeous, gorgeous girl, like
Mm.
so like standard of beauty, like beautiful girl. And it breaks my heart that like the quirky sides or the other sides of her that are have been like shunned and hidden, it's like they deserve to take up space too,
I
and I
think
want her to know that.
I think the most depth that we saw from her was when she painted her
Me
experience of their
too.
relationship and gave it to him.
I loved that. I
Me
have a note,
too.
and then what the other thing that I really loved is he asked for consent to hug her. He was like,
Mm.
"Can I hug you?" And she said, "Please do." And I thought that
Yeah.
was the most vulnerable we ever saw her,
Yeah.
where she was like, "Yes." Ooh, I got goosies just now. And it's
Goosies.
like, yeah, like felt the carnival go-karty date and that painting was the most beautiful moment between them as a couple.
Totally. Yeah, and I wish that this was explored more, but there was a lot where she was like the gold foil in the painting was representing how like strong we started, and it does feel like it's faded a little, so I've included that. And I was just like, "Oh my god, I have so many more questions. Tell me about every detail of this painting. I want to know you better." But I don't think that it's her necessarily. I think for the origin of her concealing herself for the comfort of others served a great deal of a purpose, and maybe her access to herself was maybe she had more of it there. But I think it's been so many years of her doing exactly this that I think now she doesn't know exactly who she is, and I think that she's just like trying. She's looking for who she is in others,
Yeah.
and I feel like unfortunately Shintaro does a little of the same thing for different reasons in a different way.
Yeah.
And this is where I realize that like my affection for Ayano shifted, like it grew, where I was like, oh, I'm
Agreed.
really feeling for her. And I can tell that she's really trying, but she's just like her toolbox is wee
Limited.
little. Yeah. Um, whereas
Needs some hard
Shintaro,
work.
yeah. Whereas Shintaro is much older, and I identified in a number of these episodes, like he struggles to be himself in front of others. He really struggles to do that without alcohol present. He like he just isn't comfortable being himself. So he does a lot of masking and presenting of a very specific and kind of like polite version of
Yeah.
himself that I think unfortunately was the wrong fit for Ayano.
Agreed. Yeah, she needs someone who's like gonna, I don't want to say poke or push, but like nurture her
Model.
aspects out. Yeah, model and nurture her maybe like someone like Masaki could bring that out of her because he's so quirky,
He's
and
like
maybe
on the
like,
surface.
yeah, and like maybe her witnessing his quirks will be like, oh well, if he can be quirky, I can be quirky too. Like I love
Hmm.
that. My thing with Shintaro is it feels to me, and this is like me totally guessing, but like I feel he's been valued in his past for the money he has, and like I think this show has allowed him for someone to meet him without knowing any of that.
Hmm.
And that's why he likes her so much, is because he knows she chose him for him.
Hmm.
But now that they're face to face, I think there's aspects of him that are like guards are going up because he's
Yeah.
like, oh, wait, now that she's seeing like all of this, like, is she still going to like me for me? Or is
Right.
this going to be like a means to an end for her? Like, what is coming up? So, yeah, I think it's so wild how so many human, like, symptom behavioral type things will come up from completely different wounds, but they're the
Mm.
same behaviors. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like
Hmm.
the people pleasing, the chameleon, conforming, all of that, like two wildly different childhood experiences, but very similar,
Adult
survival
maturation.
mechanisms.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's so wild. It
Yeah.
fascinates me.
Yeah. We don't know what happens to them because the last that we see of them are they're getting ready for their wedding day.
I wish he
And
didn't pick a brown suit.
I know, but he's a handsome guy. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
lie.
he is. I just don't like him in brown. Being honest.
Yeah,
Black,
totally.
navy,
Black
brown.
would have been good. Brown was a choice. I liked the
It
fit.
was a choice.
The
Yes, the fit was great. I just don't
fit
like
was
that
good.
color.
It was
I was just like, you're like
brown. It's okay.
monochromatic.
I
Like,
don't think that they end up getting married because
you don't.
he goes to see
His face
her.
was so serious. It was.
His face but this is how he's been since they came out of the pods. Like he really doesn't know how to like chill out and have fun. I wait.
I think he's waiting for her to make that space for him where he can. They're
I
both
don't
looking
know. I
for
don't
the other
know.
person to provide the safety for them to be them. That's how I
And
perceive
and
them.
that's why they're not a good couple because unless
No.
they're
Someone needs to go first. Shit or get off the pot, y'all. Let's
yes,
go.
someone needs to open the door and say, "Come on in.
No.
The water is warm. The temperature is fine." Okay, before we move on to our last couple whom I love so much, I do want to talk about the difference of the bachelor and bachelorette parties really quickly. Of what
Okay,
we
let's
saw.
gosh.
Of what
Okay,
we
yeah.
saw.
I literally have the same thing. I'm like, so sports bar, darts, and beer for the guys, and this beautiful pool, moonlit setting for the women.
Which, like, incredible, beautiful. I would have loved to be at the like ankle deep pool party. Like, I love that. I love that. However, their function was whack. The boys made mountains out of a molehill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They played emotional intelligence dart game.
It was cute. It was so cute.
You guys, if you're not watching the show, I hope that you're still listening, and I hope that you hear me when I express my affection for this. This crew, these boys, also it's like not just the boys that are getting married, it's like some of the boys from the past, which I love. Like, that was so
Yeah,
fun.
they all showed up.
And they're playing darts, and they're like, their challenge with the dart is like, before you throw the dart, you have to like share something that you're like one of your
About your
weaknesses, or like,
person.
yeah, like something that you're working on. And Mizuki's like, I crumble under pressure. And then he's like, I don't know. It was just so fun. It was
It was great.
that was healing. I loved that.
Yeah. Yes.
I wanted to be there.
It was like low-key a version of somatic experiencing in a way, except instead of like punching pillows or like crushing plates or smashing anything, you're just throwing a dart.
And they're like talking about their personhood. And
Yeah.
but I just like the reason why I thought about it is because even Shantaro in this experience with, like, I get it, it's a bunch of guys that are like 25 years his junior, but like Odachi comes through and he's like, Shantaro, have you gotten younger? And he's just like, ha 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 ha. And I'm just like, oh man, like shake it loose, dude. Shake it loose.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
So yeah, Shantaro like goes to see Ayano all dressed up, like she's in her wedding gown, he's in his brown suit. Poor choice in my opinion.
Yeah.
And his face just looks so serious.
Yeah. And she's like, and that could have been editing, but she's just like, should you be here? No,
yeah,
they shouldn't.
isn't it bad luck?
Yeah.
So we'll see what ends up happening with them. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Yeah. Okay. Ryotaro
Matomi.
and our darling Matomi. So
Oh,
this
I've grown to love these two more and more each week.
they're my favorite couple. I know.
Okay, let's talk about it.
They're my favorite couple. I love them. They're so realistic. I love them.
Yeah.
And they love each other. It's just like not even a question. Like,
It's adorbs. It's adorbs to watch how it's been a slow burn and like developed and developed and developed. And
now it's intense.
it's so, yeah, and it's so sweet.
Yeah. They're a good match. But this is a big episode for them because they go to meet Matomi's parents for the first time, which we were all anxious about. And then eventually we meet Ryotaro's parents, which like less stressful, but also really good.
Way more warm. Yeah.
Way more warm.
Yeah. So Matomi shares with us like her father's really traditional, stuck in his ways. Ryotaro with his blonde hair might be a little like off-putting, and tattoos or whatever. And so here's what I loved. She told her family ahead of time he has blonde hair. So like, again, I said that last week. I was like, prepare them for this. Please don't blindside them.
Yeah.
She told the other thing she did is she also gave Ryotaro fair warning.
A heads
like,
up.
Hey, yeah, last guy my dad met, he literally stayed quiet and walked into the other room. So just like prepare yourself because we don't really know what's going to happen. And by the way, he also wanted to refuse. And then my mom convinced him to come at least meet you. So let's see what happened. And what I loved is he was like, I'm nervous. And she's like, me too. You know, and she's like, I don't think you need to be that nervous, but like, I feel you. And this is why being vulnerable with your partner is so necessary because like, could you imagine if either one of them was withholding that and they were just like harnessing that energy and it's like, I'm going to play it cool, but like internally I'm shaking in my boots. Like it doesn't allow the other person, your partner, to comfort you. And so the fact that they were both like, yeah, I'm nervous too. And it's like, they could come together in that nervousness and be like, but at the end of the day, like we're in it together.
Right.
That's like, that's couple goals right there.
Do you remember when we were watching Chelsea and Kwame? And Kwame was like so edgy and kind of icy before they met her dad. And she was freaking out. And because she was
Yes.
freaking out and he was freaking out, and like they had maybe a moment where they were both like, she was like, I'm anxious. And he was like, well, I'm anxious because you're anxious. It was like blamey
Yeah.
and like frustrating to watch.
Yeah.
Whereas these two, like, I agree with you. Matomi did everything that she should have. She prepared her parents, she prepared
Yep.
her boyfriend. And then he's like, I'm really nervous. And she's like, me too. Like, it's just, it's a sharing instead
Yeah.
of a, you shouldn't be
You did
nervous.
this to
That's
me.
going to be bad. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like we need to accept these emotions. And by the way, isn't it understandable that he's shaking in his boots after
I
like,
know.
like let's have some empathy and like some compassion for what our partners go through when they meet our family, especially when they've been made aware that in the past the family hasn't been receptive. Like, of course, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So the beautiful thing is they get to Yokohama, they sit down at a beautiful table. They arrive first. In comes Matomi's family. So it was mom, dad, older sister.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, look, dad was like this. I'm not a fan of this. I don't like this, but it was my daughter's decision. And here's what I loved about her father. He goes, so maybe I'm the one that needs to change.
I know.
I thought that was the cutest thing. I was like, oh my God, what a breath of fresh air in a parent. You know what I mean? It's
Dad
like,
goals.
yeah, exactly. Um, and the older sister asks, like, what is it about Matomi that, like, why her out of the other people you met? And what I think, the other thing I want to say is super cute is Ryotaro had his bleached tips. And because of what Matomi did not ask him to dye his hair. She even was like, don't do it. Like, it's a part of your career. I already shared that with him. He did it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a part of me that's like, you didn't need to do that. But
Yeah.
I also thought it was really considerate of
Yeah.
him to like take it in baby steps with them and like honor them in that way, especially with the culture being what it was
Yeah.
or is rather. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, I thought that really showed who he is as a man, like his character,
Yes,
you
and I
know?
understand why. I understood what he was saying as to why he did it. I think that it was important to like distinctly say this wasn't. I'm not trying to change myself to be here.
Mhm.
He's like, I'm trying to quiet possible judgments because I want them to hear me and how sincere I am about this
About their
relationship. And I was
daughter.
like,
Yeah.
say
Sexy,
less.
right?
Yeah,
Yes. Like
yeah.
seriously, like these episodes with him, I was like, you're hot. Like this is and because of the emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Like and then also the hair cutting. Like there's just something about like that was just so cute.
Mm.
So and I think that because of those displays of Ryotaro's like efforts, his her father and mother could both recognize like, okay, like he's not a piece of shit who just like went on a show for the sake of being on a show and meeting a cute girl and is like gonna hurt our daughter. Like
Yeah,
his heart's in the right place.
yeah.
And I loved it. I was so happy. Basically they got a blessing from the family at the end, like acceptance. And Mazel tov, like
He earned it.
cool.
And
He did.
dad earned it. Dad did good.
Dad too. I think they
Apparently,
did. Go
dad
ahead.
like was refusing to put the mic on even when they were at the
I
restaurant.
heard that's what she said. Excuse me, I
Yeah.
burped.
This is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. I love that they're like naming the show elements because
Yeah.
it's like part of it, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
dad didn't want to be there, and then when he was there, he still didn't want to be there. And
Yeah.
he did it. I'm so glad he did because he was like, and Matomi shares this with the girls, but she was like, my dad didn't even want to put his mic on, but that as soon as he did, and we sat down and we talked, she was like, he felt that Ryotaro is a really nice guy,
Yeah.
and that's right, he is. That's a
He
nice boy.
is. I'm so excited for these two. I
Mm.
I love how compassionate and like cute and like when I watch them in their home with like her cooking and that was the other cute thing is he cuts her hair and she's like I'll pay you back with dinner. Like it's
Yeah.
just like it's so wholesome. Like
Mm.
that's the word that comes to mind when I watch them. Like I literally feel like I'm just watching the most innocent couple like with they're communicating, they're meeting each other's needs, they're talking about it. Like it's the sweetest thing. So I'm
Mm.
rooting for them.
And then they meet Ryotaro's parents, who I loved this. Well, I loved his parents because they were just like the right amount of playful, the right amount of curious and genuine. But what I loved was like I liked that their parents' reflections during it was sort of like, what is there to say about Matomi? She's lovely. You know, like
Yeah.
she's a lovely girl. I think what makes this different for us is like I'm watching what my son's face is doing while we're spending time with this girl. And I was like, that is a stellar mom moment. She's like,
Yeah.
and I get it, because if any of these parents met any of these women, they would be like, we love her. She's
Right.
amazing. Like they're all of these women are so great. They're quality
Yeah.
people. Um and I think what's beautiful is that mom was really paying attention, not to just so much like who's this girl and what does she do and what's her life like and how does she cook dinner and blah blah blah. Does she take care of her home? It was really like,
Yeah.
oh my God, my son is beaming.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, girl, we've been watching.
Yeah, yeah, I have the same notes. I love that his father was like, after meeting her, I feel relieved. Like they
Hmm.
agree on like, oh my God, like breath of fresh air, like this is good.
Yeah.
And that was really all they had to say, but like beautiful things. Like I think that's so telling in it's so wild. Like I kind of like playing this game too, where I'm out and about. If I'm people watching, it's so true. Like watching someone how they talk about their partner, watching someone how they look or observe their partner, like look at and
Hmm.
observe. I think it really is telling for the compassion or lack thereof, lack thereof, and consideration that they have for their partner.
Hmm.
And it makes me so curious. Same with body language. I'm just like, huh.
Hmm.
Um, but clearly what Matomi and Ryotaro have going on is speaking volumes in the best way
Hmm.
possible. So all parents are on board, and that just makes my heart so happy for all of them. You know?
Hmm. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Okay, the end.
We did it. We have one more episode to unpack, and then what journey
That's
will
it.
ditch the script take next? Who knows? I have actually
We
some
don't know
ideas.
yet. Okay, great. Hit me up in the Slack channel.
Yep.
What are we ditching?
Oh,
I know what I'm ditching.
okay. What is it?
I am ditching the we need to, if something ends, we need to be like paint them as the villain bullshit. That is like
Mm,
so, especially like in American culture, it's such a thing. It's like, oh, well, they didn't like you, like fuck them, or like they didn't choose me, well, they're an asshole. It's like, no, they're a human, and we don't need to take it personally. Like, let's look at what we can value out of this experience. Like, that is what we're doing instead.
yeah, I love
Emotional
that.
maturity. Yeah.
Emotional. We're bringing in emotional maturity, and we're ditching villainhood just to
Yep.
cope.
Yes, for
Yeah,
real.
yeah.
100.
Okay, I'm ditching uh seeking chemistry as the number one priority in a
Yeah.
connection.
Mm, mm,
It's
mm,
just
mm.
it's a failure every time. It's like if you're looking for chemistry, have low expectations for like what the connection will actually
Sustainability.
be. Yeah. If you're looking for chemistry just for like a good casual fuck, absolutely go for
Right.
chemistry. But if you're
Yes.
looking for a long-term partner, someone that you see yourself going through many seasons and hardships with,
Mm,
chemistry ain't your girl. That's not your bestie.
no. Stability. Gotta be your
Stability.
bestie.
Stability and like
Communication.
communication.
Compassion.
Yep. Emotional availability, good listening
Yes.
skills, someone that gives a shit about you. Yeah.
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 Turns towards you instead of is like, I don't have time for this. What is it
Also,
now?
can we ditch
Fuck that shit.
making comments about our partner's bodies? I really didn't like
Yes.
that. They said something
Neither.
about a spare tire on the belly that I literally hated.
Yeah, it's a so that's what the fat that can grow around the waistline is
Hmm.
called a rubber tire, like in slang. And
Huh.
there is a correlation with like fat in that area and heart disease. So
Mm.
like even from a health standpoint, like I understand the concern, but like shaming your partner, poking fun, teasing your partner about that, like who likes to be teased for their insecurities and imperfections? Nobody.
Just shouldn't be
So
talked about it in that
treat
way.
other people the way that you want to be treated. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
like no one likes to be called out for things that they're insecure about or that they know isn't 100% like how they want to look. So don't lead with that like rubber tire on your gut and like blah 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 and like now you're here working it off. Like no, just be like, yo, I love the work you're doing. That's so hot. It's so hot seeing you.
I love working out together. Like, I love that we do
Yeah.
this together. I love that we can spend time
Yeah.
together this way.
Yeah. Same, you know? That like, or like, I love that we value our health together. Like,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Like,
Enough.
there's so many other glass half full ways you could put it instead of like, hee hee ha ha. Yeah,
Yeah.
not the vibe.
Yeah.
Word.
Okay, cool. Well, this has been enlightening and therapeutic and healing as always.
Yeah, 100.
I can't wait
If
for
you
you to eat
liked it,
food.
me neither. If you like this episode, screenshot it, share it on the gram at Ditch the Script Pod, tag us, make sure that you also leave a rating or review, hit some of those stars, preferably 5 stars. And if you're not following us on the gram or TikTok yet, again, our handle is at Ditch the Script Pod. Make sure to hit the follow button. And you should also head to our YouTube channel and subscribe there, just because we do fun facial expressions, dances, karaoke. Like, you're missing out if you're not
You're
watching
missing
it,
out if you're
guys.
not watching it.
I'm just
That's
saying,
so
like,
true.
full production value, A+. Okay? And if you have a question you want us to answer about your love life and dating and relationships, head to our website, ditchthescriptpod.com, to submit it. That's it. Love you guys. Bye.
Crab hands.